Poof. I didn't mean to do that. Ah, bollocks. Alright, hold on. Well, now that I've done everything out of order entirely, fuck. And I'm not happy with the background I picked because I'm not, so I'm gonna fix that real quick. If you guys were expecting me to do anything good, I don't know why you expected that of me. So we got that going. Now I rearranged my desk such that everything should fit. And it does. Just barely. Okay, good shit. I was so not ready. I'm sorry, chat. This is atrocious. So if you guys are speaking, I'm not looking yet because I suck. Honey, I don't give a fuck. Can you just... There we go. I'm apparently live. Wouldn't you know it? Alright, let me go to mod view. This train wreck has only been up for 3 minutes. Feels like longer. Alright, no one said a damn thing, so I did all this rushing for nothing. Ayy. Good shit. Oxy's the best. Alright. It is time for spooks. Now, some of you who are watching the VOD are like, yo, Wolfie, the fuck, dude? You were supposed to do Cthulhu today. And I counter with, you right. But I didn't, because I took a very long walk, and then I was tired, so I was already like, maybe I planned badly. And then my sister's like, let's go out for ice cream, and I went, fuck yeah, ice cream. And So I just got back. I just got back home. So we're going to do Cthulhu tomorrow, probably. Unless I have shit that takes particularly long of other obligations. However, this does not seem terribly likely. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say we're probably good for tomorrow. I might have started stream too late. Nobody's here. That's okay. We will do. Okay. You know what? I'm happy I read this one before I read it out loud. So we will do I think I've read these. Hold on. I'm a-thinking. Let's read The Cloak of Dreams. This is from a book of Chinese fairy tales. The Emperor Ming Huang, a descendant of the Tang Dynasty, had a wife named Nai Fu, who was as beautiful as the moon in May. However, they were never seen conversing with one another, sitting together, or holding hands. His wife, Nai Fu, only appeared when the emperor put on his marvelous embroidered cloak. Then she walked behind him, keeping a great distance between them, and the yearning of her soul rested on him with her gaze. Let me tell you how this all came about. Ming Huang had a glorious garden that had such a powerful fragrance you could fetch an aroma out of the garden with your bare hand, like water from spring. One time he stood with his empress in the garden on the 7th night of the week, and as they looked at the constellation of the weaver and the shepherd in the sky, they swore eternal love to one another. But the empress, Nai Fu, had a dreaming soul because she had died too early in her previous life. This was why her gaze always roamed far away, following her dreams, and carried her beyond her imperial husband. Even when he held her in his arms, her soul was very far away from him. It was just like the spirit of someone sleeping that cannot be held down and flies away in the dream. This is why their love was damaged. Nai Fu reproached herself bitterly, but she could do nothing about it. So, she had a dissociation problem? Or a derealization problem? Oof, I kinda relate. One night, while she was sleeping in the gazebo made out of pale green jade, and her bed was swaying on the fragrant waves like a boat on the back of a stream, she saw the Emperor Ming Huang. She saw the Emperor Ming Huang. He was wearing a marvelous cloak, on which all of the images of her dreams had been embroidered. Gigantic mountains with glistening cliffs and wide golden rivers, magical gardens and palaces, sweet fairies and wild dragons spitting fire. His cloak carried the entire dreamland for which her soul yearned. Nypha's heart was delighted and filled with happiness, for now she could keep her gaze upon the Emperor and hold it forever. No longer did she have to choose between the path of her dreams and the path of her love. When Nypha awakened from her sleep, she went to the Emperor and said to him, "When we were standing that time on the 7th night of the week in the sweet-smelling garden, and looked up at the constellation of the Weaver and the Shepherd, I swore eternal love to you. But I have a dreaming soul, because I died too early in a previous life." She's just telling him this. "Because I died too early in my previous life, and it diverts my gaze away from you. Our love has been damaged by this, and I can't keep the vow I made to you. Therefore, you must wear my dreams so that I can gaze upon you, and I look for my dreams, and when I pursue them, I'll come to you."
"How can I wear your dreams?" the Emperor asked sadly.
"I shall embroider them all in a cloak that you must wear."
Seems like a lot.
The Empress Nyphula went into the gazebo made of pale green jade, and for 5 long years she embroidered a cloak. For 5 long years she did not leave the gazebo. Only the fragrance of the garden drifted toward her, and she sensed... Geez, I'm sorry. And she sensed the change in seasons as the aromas changed. Smile, how are you? This was the way she could count the 5 years as they passed. When Nyphula finished embroidering the cloak, she brought to it the Emperor Minghuang. She brought it to the Emperor Minghuang, and he put it on. Her heart was filled with joy and happiness, because she saw the Emperor wrapped in her dreams. She looked at him, and the yearning of her soul and the yearning of her heart burned in her eyes at the same time. Then Nyphula stretched out her arms and wanted to approach the Emperor to rest her head on his chest. But she couldn't come close to him. The gigantic mountains with the glistening rocks blocked her way. The wide golden rivers blocked her way. The large magic gardens, the sweet fairies, and the wild dragons spitting fire were embroidered so artfully that they blocked the way of the Empress. The entire spacious dreamland lay between her and the Emperor, and she couldn't come to him. Suddenly tears streamed down her cheeks, and the Emperor cried out,
"I will not wear the cloak."
Nyphula responded very sadly, "You must choose, Minghuang. If you take off the cloak, you can hold me in your arms, but my soul will be far away from you. If you wear the cloak, I won't be able to approach you, and I won't be able to come to you. But the longing of my soul will eternally cast its glances upon you. You must choose, but think about the vow we once made on that 7th night about our secret talks we had that nobody knows." So the Emperor Minghuang chose to wear the Cloak of Dreams. Since then, nobody has seen him together with his wife, Nyphula, who is as beautiful as the moon in May. Only when he put on his embroidered cloak could one see Nyphula as well. She walked behind him, keeping a great distance, and the yearning of her soul rested on him with her gaze. It's an interesting story. Alright, Smiles, I'll let you pick the topic of the next one. Do you want a Scottish story? A story from a first responder, or a story from Texas, or oof, how many states do I have? I've got some British stuff in here. I've got some Canada. I think I have like Ohio in here. I have stories of possessions. Let's go Texas. All right. Love Texas. Hell yeah. All right. Let's do... Let's do the White Wolf. This one's from Elroy, which I believe is in Texas. I will check that real quick. It's in Wisconsin. Elroy, Texas. Oh, it's in Texas too. Okay. We good. She snapped awake suddenly, out of a deep sleep, every muscle tense, ears straining. What had she heard? Something was out of place, and the thought terrified her. She kept very still, barely breathing, as she listened for the sound that had alarmed her. The house was silent. It was not even the soft sigh of the wind against the weathered boards of the farmhouse. Then it came again. Sniff, sniff, sniff. A quick snuffling sound down the hall, near the front staircase. Pad, pad, click, click. It sounded like the paws of a giant creature. Pad, pad, pad. Soft sounds. Menacing sounds. Some animal, a large animal, was in the house with her. Hide, hide. The instinct screamed at her to burrow under the covers, slide under the bed, tuck herself into the closet. Find somewhere safe to hide. Electricity screamed through every nerve, making her body sing with awareness and tense fear. But her mind ran quicker, even than the lightning shafts tensing her body for action. If she stayed in this room, she'd be trapped with the creature. There was nothing to fight it with. Tennis rackets, baseball bats, old lengths of pipe. Those were out all in the shed. Not in her fire-too pristine bedroom with its pink ruffled femininity and display of stuffed animals still proudly sitting on a desk over the shelf. Sitting on the shelf over the desk. Oh boy. Pant, pant, pant. The creature was getting closer now, stalking her. Its breath came faster as it approached, and instinct told her that when it found her, it would kill. It smelled her. It knew she was there, alone in the dark house, while her parents lingered long over their anniversary dinner. Before her conscious mind connected with the thought, her body, already slipping out of her bed, nightdress floating around her, as she sped through the connecting bathroom, out the door at the far end of the hall, and down the back staircase. She heard a soft growl, and the sound of animal feet pursuing her, as she raced down the steps so fast she almost fell, leaping over the last four. She sank nearly to her knees at the impact with the kitchen floor. Then terror led her past the cupboards and with her two dull butter knives to the back door. She fumbled with the handle. Her straining eyes glanced into the glass of the windows for a horrible, curious moment to see what it was that was stalking her. She got a glimpse of the maddened red eyes over narrow white snout, pricked ears, and white speed. A wolf. A giant wolf. The door swung open and she was through, but it was caught before it latched by the body of the beast. Then she was running through the cool, dark autumn night. Get to the tool shed, her brain screamed. Get a baseball bat, tennis racket. something to hit it with. But her feet were already skidding to a halt, changing direction as soon as the shed came into view. It was padlocked. Her father had decided to lock it this night of all nights, since a rash of petty thievery had overtaken their neighborhood. Her legs were even faster than her conscious mind, which was so numb with terror that she couldn't keep up. They had turned her body, and she was racing away around the house, the terrifying, almost silent sound of the creature's pounding feet and panting breath loud in her ears. The shivering of her spine told her that it was close behind. Almost. She could feel the hot, humid touch of its breath on her body as she ran. Faster, faster, she commanded her legs, gasping desperately against the fear choking her, against the stitch forming in her side. Run around the house and down the driveway, over to the neighbor's house. She turned the third corner of her house and realized she'd never make it across the street in time. The wolf was too close. Perhaps she could run back inside and lock the creature out. But how could she keep it out when she had no idea how the white wolf had gotten inside? And the creature was gaining on her. Yo, Thunder Kitty, what's up? She felt it snap at her back leg, felt the sting of teeth scraping calf muscle, and put on speed. Around one more corner of the front of the house. Then it veered away from her suddenly. Her heart pounded with hope. Maybe it heard her parents' car. She kept running around the last corner to the front of the house, past the rickety old well house that her father always promised to tear down and never did. The wolf was there, springing upon her from the top of the well house, teeth ripping, tearing out her throat in a single brutal moment. Her mind screamed in shock, but she had no voice left to echo the horror drumming through every cell of her body as her brain function stalled. She felt her body thud to the ground, borne down by the weight of the white wolf. The impact did not register, nor did the continuous tearing of its teeth against skin and muscle and bone. It was eating her, she thought dispassionately, as the blackness fell across her vision. But she had no voice left to scream. She woke suddenly, as her shoulder was shaken by trembling hands. She looked up at the frightened face of her mother, her father hovering just behind. "Celia, what's wrong, honey? Did you have a bad dream?" Celia leapt into her mother's arms, sobbing incoherently about a wolf and no throat in the old well house. Her mother couldn't catch the whole story, nor did she try. She just soothed Celia, and her father got her a hot drink. Finally, she went back to sleep, reassured because it had only been a dream after all, and her parents were sleeping in their bedroom down the hall. Everything was completely normal the next day. Her parents' anniversary. Breakfast was normal, school was normal, though her friends remarked about the paleness and tendency to gasp and jump at the least little noise. The ride home from school on her back was normal. All was well until the moment her mother reminded Celia over milk and cookies that she and her father would be going out that night to celebrate their anniversary. Celia turned milk white. In her dream, the white wolf had come to kill her while her parents were out celebrating their anniversary. She started shaking, and to her own shame, heard herself begging almost hysterically for her mother not to go. Celia's mother was impatient with this childish behavior. After all, Celia was 16, not a baby. She had her parents' cell phone number, and the neighbors were nearby. She had been left all alone many times before, even babysat for the neighborhood's children. Celia allowed herself to be shamed into staying home that night, alone in that big house that had never frightened her before. But she'd never had such a dream before either. The thought of the coming of the white wolf terrified her. She locked herself into the house as soon as her parents left, checking every door, every window, carrying her father's old baseball bat with her for protection. She knew it was silly, but she kept looking out the windows, trying to see if anything, if it was coming. When she caught a glimpse of White, her heart almost stopped in terror, till she realized it was the reflection of her own face in the window. She laughed shakily and went up to bed. Just before she turned off the light, she set the baseball bat carefully against the foot of her bed, where she could easily reach it. Then she rolled over to sleep. As a dark fog descended over her mind, she ignored the small thumping and bumping sounds the baseball bat made as it fell to the floor and rolled under her bed. She snapped awake suddenly out of a deep sleep, every muscle tense, ears straining. Then she heard the tinkling of falling glass from a broken window and the snuffling sound of a snout pressed to the floor. Pat, pat, pat went the large feet as they negotiated the stairs. The sound of a hunting wolf. A werewolf. Her treacherous mind corrected her in a calm, clinical way. It was a werewolf. Real wolves did not break into houses when there was plenty of game outside for them to eat. She could hear the click-clicking of the creature's claws on the wooden floor. The musky, foul smell of wet animal fur combined with the meaty breath of a carnivore drifted faintly into her room, making her gag. But she was ready this time. The dream of the previous night had warned her. Trying to stay calm, she reached for the baseball bat at the foot of her bed. Her fingers grasped empty air. She felt the first seeds of panic grip her. For a moment she felt the blood thundering in her veins, felt her skin go clammy with fear. Where was the baseball bat? She could hear the werewolf's panting breath right outside her room. Dimly see the door handle turning as the clever creature pawed it. Stench of meat breath and animal sweat filled the room. She felt panic grip her, remembering suddenly the thud of the fallen bat as she fell asleep. There was no time to search for it now, no time. Her body was already out of bed, nightdress fluttering around her as she sped once again through the bathroom and down the back stairs. She heard a soft growl and the sound of animal feet pursuing her. She raced down the steps, nearly collapsing onto the kitchen floor as she tore open the back door. A glance at the window beside her showed a reflection of the werewolf leaping down the last few steps behind her. The cool autumn air smacked against her face, her bare legs, her skin. Her feet screamed in protest as she ran painfully across the sharp gravel driveway toward the tool shed, and skidded to a halt the second time at the sight of the padlock. The huge, red-eyed wolf was between her and the driveway now, stalking her, with every hair of its white coat standing erect, forming a great white ridge running the length of its back. The cold wind pierced her skin as she turned and fled around the side of the house. She gasped as the white wolf howled and took off after her. She could hear the terrifying sound of the creature's pounding feet and feel its hot, panting breath against her thin legs, exposed by her short nightgown. Faster, faster, she commanded her legs, gasping desperately against the fear choking her, against the stitch forming in her side. Run around the house and back down the driveway. She felt the wolf snap at her back leg, felt the sting of teeth, felt hot blood pouring down. She put on speed. Around one more corner to the front of the house. The wolf veered away from her suddenly, and she felt a rush of hope. Then she remembered the trap at the well house. From her dream and whirled round to run back the other way, away from the trap. She couldn't hear the wolf now. Couldn't see it in the cloud-darkened night. She kept running, this time toward the locked tool shed. To her intense relief, she saw headlights pulling into the bottom of the long driveway. Then her heart stopped in panic as the lights illuminated the shape of the white wolf balanced on the porch railing right in front of her. It sprang upon her. Huge teeth tearing, ripping into her throat, she fell to the ground under the weight of its body in the pool of light created by the approaching car. And that's where it ends. Damn. Alright. If anyone has dreams about any particularly mean white wolves, don't stay at home alone. Makes sense to me. Alright. What other stories you guys into? You want more Texas? Do you want to move to a different state? A different country even? You can throw pretty much anything out and I can probably find something that'll match. We have demonic possessions. We have Scottish, Irish, lots of Irish, lots of Chinese. I got some new ones recently. Let me go ahead and find them. I've got some from Appalachia. Got some haunted places. Got, like, just rural America. You also let me choose laughter, so whatever other ones want. Y'all are lurking. Speak up. Oh, we've got some from Japan. We've got, like, thrillers from Tobias Wade, whoever the fuck that guy is. We got Pennsylvania. We got just generally the South. We got hospitals. Got crime and punishment. Let's look at the crime. Why not? Alright. Oh, these are all British. Wow. Never mind, hold on. We have Ohio. I forgot that we had Ohio. Let's see what these haunted houses are about. I think most of us forgot we had Ohio. You know what? Let's give Ohio some love. Where the fuck is Ohio? I just saw it. God damn it. Ohio isn't a state, it's the whole planet. You right. Let's see. Where the fuck is Ohio? Oh, I'm looking at it. God damn it, son of a bitch. Big Book of Ohio. Alright, let's see. Let's do... Oh, I read that terribly wrong. Ooh, there's a lot in here. Oh my god. Okay. Alright, let's do... The Theater Ghosts of Bowling Green State University. I was just talking about how I didn't like theater like the other night. So this just seems fitting. Alright, y'all ready? This is Ohio. Originally designed simply as a training facility for teachers, what would be... Whoops, I can't read. What would become Bowling Green State University was founded in 1910. Today, some 20,000 students attend school here. It is no wonder ghosts have also chosen to take up residence on the Bowling Green campus. The university has, throughout its history, embraced strange and mysterious things. Case in point, sometime in late September 1946, 6 Bowling Green students, Gilbert Fox, Richard Harrig, Max Hofmeiser, James Limbacher, Earl Mott, and Erwin Potts each received a mysterious letter instructing him to go into the office of the university's president at precisely 12:45 a.m. on October 5th for a meeting. No additional information was given, but they were instructed to burn the letters as soon as they had finished reading them. Unsure exactly what they were walking into, all 6 students made their way to the president's office at the appointed time. They learned that the purpose of the meeting, spearheaded by President Frank Prout, was to create a mysterious group that could help raise the level of school spirit at Bowling Green. Not really the use of school spirit that... These 6 students were appointed as the first members of a secret society called SIC. SIC is, or SIC, as I'm going to call it from now on, is still in existence today, and it consists of 6 members who spread school spirit around the campus at sporting events, always while wearing a mask. In fact, the members' identities are revealed only when they are set to graduate, and with new masked SIC members ready to take their places. So I suppose you could say that people associating with Bowling Green State University sometimes have a flair for the dramatic. The same might be said for ghosts believed to haunt the campus, which might be why one of them chooses to haunt the theater. located in the basement of one of the university's most recognizable buildings. Over the years, since it first opened in 1915, University Hall has been home to everything, from classrooms to the school bookstore to a gymnasium. In 1960, the recreation hall in the basement was completely gutted and turned into a theater. The following year, the theater was opened to the public. Sorry. Open to the public, and named the Joe E. Brown Theater, after the Ohio-born actor who, though he never attended any college or university, had adopted Bowling Green as his alma mater. But it's not the ghost of Joe Brown who's said to haunt the theater. The resident ghost here is said to be that of a former actress called Alice. Alice's last name is unknown, but it's said that she was at one time a talented actress attending the university. Popular legend has Alice meeting her tragic end on stage while portraying the role of Desdemona, one of the central characters in Shakespeare's play Othello. As Alice stood in the spotlight, part of the rigging high above the stage came loose, crashing down and killing her. Another variation of this story has Alice dying, not on stage, but in a car accident while she was on her way to the theater to collect her Actress of the Year award. However, Alice met her untimely end. Her ghost appears to have made the Joe E. Brown Theater her home. Good luck. Good luck trying to see her, though. Alice's ghost seems to have developed a bit of stage fright since moving into the theater, so she's rarely seen. On occasion, people have reported feeling cold chills and breezes moving through the theater. But more often than not, Alice only makes her presence known if someone does something she doesn't approve of. That's why it's become a tradition at Bowling Green that before every opening night, Alice's ghost is officially invited to the performance. If this is not done, legend has it, Alice's ghost is not going to be happy about being slighted, and will go out of her way to make sure that the performances don't go off without a hitch. Over the years, Alice's ghost has been blamed for power failures, stage sets not working as planned, and even actors and actresses forgetting their lines. When things were going well at the Joe E. Brown Theater, Alice's ghost would sometimes go for a little stroll. For many years, there was a second theater in University Hall, the Eva Marie Saint Theater, named after the award-winning actress and Bowling Green alum. But, it was believed that on occasion, Alice's ghost would wander over to the other theater to check in on things. For the most part, Alice's arrival at the Eva Marie Saint Theater was signaled by some of the seats being moved from the up to the down position, as if somebody were preparing to sit on them and watch what was happening up on the stage. In 2012, the Eva Marie Saint Theater was relocated to the Wolf Center for the Arts. As of this writing, there is no word yet as to whether Alice's ghost has decided to make the trip across campus to check out the new digs. But perhaps she's just letting the university thespians get in some practice before she goes over to critique them. What a nosy cunt. I mean, I guess if you're dead, you got nothing better to do. Alright. might be a shorter story time stream because the Wolfie is a little tired, as you can probably tell by the yawning. Alright. Anybody else have any requests? I'm down for really whatever. Alright. I'm still getting over the nosy cunt comment. Fair. Very fair. Jesus Christ. It's a good thing I kicked Cthulhu over to tomorrow. My poor body is really pushing it. That didn't sound right. Let's do some Edgar. No, Sassy's not here, and I know Sassy really likes Poe. What would I like to read? Oh, what would I like to read? In my spare time, I'm reading Romance of the Three Kingdoms, so it's not like I need to read more Chinese stuff. I've kind of been getting my fix of that. Let's go to Demonic Possessions. Alright. Priscilla oh. Oh, this is not, like... But this is not a story, this is more of a breakdown. Alright, yeah, sure, why not? Let's do it. Priscilla Johnson, Terror in Colonial America. Priscilla Johnson was a teenage girl living in 1670s Colonial America. A lean, intense, outgoing blonde 16-year-old. She was working for the household of a local pastor to bring in some extra income for her family. However, it would seem the devil was waiting for her right outside the minister's home. Her nightmare began with odd behavior observed by the pastor's family not long after Priscilla started working for them. They claimed she exhibited sudden changes in facial expressions, speaking to somebody that simply wasn't there, and unreasonable hysterical laughter, which often became so violent she fell on the floor. This behavior went on for a few weeks until a sudden escalation one night at her home. Priscilla began screaming out in terrible pain, grabbing different parts of her body as though in terror. Her family didn't think much of her behavior, even when she grabbed at her throat choking, perhaps feeling it was a bid for attention, although it was all too real to Priscilla. Soon, Priscilla began experiencing seizures in which her body twisted, and she was only able to say the words money, misery, and sin. Oddly enough, she was fully aware during the seizures, even able to repeat what others said in her presence. However, she still remained uncontrollable over her body as she thrashed around on the floor. Her long, blonde hair whipped through the air as her limbs twisted into unimaginable, painful contortions. This finally concerned her parents enough to contact the pastor. They all agreed this seemed to go beyond merely vying for attention. Another abnormal fact of the seizures is that they didn't seem to weaken her at all. She was stronger and more energetic after the seizure than she was before, which is quite the opposite of a purely physical seizure. Her strength became so omnipotent. It took almost 6 full-grown men to pin her down on the floor so she wouldn't hurt herself, especially near the open fireplace, a seeming favorite target for whatever was controlling her body. Besides having the ability to hear those around her, she could later identify people in the room, though her eyes were clamped shut, even if the people were silent. The seizures would intensify when the pastor came into the room, though with her eyes closed, she had no way of knowing he had entered. The seizures were not the worst part of Priscilla's experience. As her possession progressed, other strange symptoms manifested. In between seizures, she would leap around the house making animal noises, ranging from a barking dog to a bleating sheep. Additionally, she was overcome with murderous urges. It began with her parents, but then included her neighbors and the pastor's children she attended. Disturbingly, it was the youngest child that was the focus of most of her obsessions. These homicidal cravings were so strong it took all of the willpower she had remaining not to act on them. This, according to Priscilla, was one of the most frightening aspects of her experience. When her symptoms worsened, she was taken to live at the pastor's home under the care of his family. One night after arriving, Priscilla awoke with the horrifying, homicidal impulse raging through her, as if her very blood was on fire. She couldn't get the idea out of her mind. Weakened from months of fighting these battles, she gave in. With access to a billhook, which is a sickle-like device, she silently crept out of bed and headed down the long hall to the pastor's bedroom. Convinced he was asleep, she was prepared to kill him. However, he was walking along the hall when he encountered a very strange-acting Priscilla. She discreetly tucked the billhook out of sight beneath the folds of her gown and made an excuse for why she was in the hall. Frightened, yet relieved, she headed back to her room. Fortunately, the murderous urge had receded. It would be several weeks before the pastor found out how close he had come to being murdered. These murderous urges were not limited to others, however. Many times, Priscilla struggled with suicidal thoughts and impulses, going as far as to perch on the edge of a well preparing to jump in, until something distracted her and the urge disappeared. That's relatable. She also fantasized about hanging herself, but never succeeded in fully putting those fantasies into action. Priscilla finally revealed Satan had appeared to her multiple times while she was working and later living under the pastor's roof. It all started when she ventured into the pastor's cellar to retrieve some supplies. There she saw two strange figures, but frightened, ran upstairs. She had someone else go down to the cellar with her, but they saw no one. This person did say, however, he noticed Priscilla talking with someone, though they were alone. Priscilla claimed her mistake was greeting the one she later believed to be Satan with the words, "What cheer, old man?" Apparently, a seemingly innocent greeting gave the evil being access to her mind, and later her body. According to her, Satan appeared to her multiple times. In his hand, he always held a book filled with the contracts he'd made with individuals signed in blood. And he wanted her to make a pact with him also. Priscilla said he pointed out her discontent in life. Living in a small town, being from a relatively poor family, having to work for the pastor, never having any hope of seeing the world. And he promised her some very tempting things, such as a chance to see the world, access to great wealth, fashionable clothes, and never having to work again. Priscilla said she'd never made a league with the devil. Later statements seemed to contradict that claim. She did admit that he would often appear when she was most discontented with her life, depressed, weary with her work, and longing for excitement. She'd also admitted she would listen to him rather than fleeing from him, for he always seemed sympathetic of her plight. Priscilla's claims would alternate between those of terror at the sight of the devil, to confessing of purposely staying late at work to go home after dark, thus having a better chance of encountering the devil. He would appear to her in the shadows of darkness on the way home, walking, talking, and sympathizing with her in order to tempt her. She later confessed she had traveled with him on at least 2 occasions. She on horseback and he in the form of a large, menacing black dog that followed close behind. The devil was not the only thing she saw. Later on, she stated that, to her horror, she'd witnessed more demonic creatures than she'd ever witnessed humans. Those creatures were somewhat human in form, but loathsome, deformed, and mutated to the point where they were horrifying to gaze upon. Not all of these demons merely appeared either. Some of them would bite her, strangle her, speak to her, and throw her down on the floor. Apparently, at least one of these creatures was visible to another young lady as well. Many Christians in the community prayed and counseled Priscilla, including her pastor, but they all had the same question in mind. Was Priscilla truly possessed? A local physician was called to evaluate her, and his initial opinion, based on the limited medical knowledge of the time, was her possession was due to stomach problems and bad blood. I mean, I guess. I mean, this is 1760, but surely they had to know about mental illness by that point, right? He went so far to say as the bad blood caused dangerous fumes to collect in her brain, which was the source of all of her problems. He prescribed her a curative, which likely seems to have been some kind of tranquilizer. The seizures grew less frequent and less intense, and Priscilla was sent home back to her parents. Her problems were not over, however. Over time, her behavior became odd all over again, and she began to alternate between being glad she was free of the demons and being sad she could no longer visit them. Soon the seizures began again in force, exhibiting the same impossible contortions, with the same awareness of her surroundings. This time, however, Priscilla could not speak at all. Her tongue was arched up to the roof of her mouth. Her tongue would remain in that position for hours at a time, with even the strongest of men unable to dislodge it from that position. As her condition worsened, they called for the pastor again. From that point, she began what can only be described as a descent into torment and madness. The seizures began to last for hours at a time, and her behavior in between became more erratic and senseless. She had to be watched closely because of multiple suicide attempts, yet those watching her had to be careful because of her violent attacks upon them. When she did succeed in harming someone, she would laugh with devilish delight. The pastor and Priscilla's family, it seems, had begun to doubt she was truly possessed. Priscilla would confess to something one day and then recant the next, then confess to something similar a few days later. They began to suspect this was all an attempt to gain attention, like her family believed from the very beginning. However, their minds would be changed. One fateful Sunday, because of course it had to be Sunday, Priscilla's seizures started afresh. But suddenly her tongue was drawn so far out of her mouth that it seemed physically impossible. Her body, very bloated and fleshy, began to bend and twist as if she was a circus contortionist. Then a new voice came forth from her lips. It was deep, guttural, aggressive, masculine voice that mocked them for attending church that Sunday morning and called the pastor a loathsome liar. The family immediately called for the pastor out of fear. When the pastor arrived, he was seriously taken aback. Nothing in Priscilla's behavior up to that point so clearly pointed to demonic possession. The pastor would later admit he was frightened, having never dealt with demon possession up close and personal, and he could no longer deny the demonic overtones of what was happening. Subsequently, the evil voice coming from Priscilla began to name those present and then list every secret, sinful act he or she had committed in the past, even those that Priscilla had no way of knowing. This frightened many present, needless to say, and pointed once again toward demonic powers. When confronted as to whom he was, the spirit answered, I am a pretty boy, and this is my pretty girl. This chilled Priscilla's parents to their very core. This evil thing was claiming their young daughter as its own property. Those present began to pray for Priscilla's deliverance. She would become quiet during those times, but the instant they stopped praying, that same demonic voice would begin to speak. The battle continued several more days, until everyone involved was worn out. Over time, the seizures became less severe, but she never regained the ability to speak. The evil spirit eventually quit speaking through her and only took one person to keep an eye on her for her own safety. Sadly, however, Priscilla never fully recovered. How's for that, Smiles? Spoopy? Yeah, for sure. Alright. I have fire in me for one or two more. If anyone has any requests, speak now or forever hold their pieces. Call it Cthulhu tomorrow, so I won't be doing Lovecraft. You want New York, Sassy? You got it. Eltrity and Tone? Ooh. Alright. Where's New York? Here we go. God damn it, there are so many good ones. Okay. Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna pick one. Alright. We're gonna do going fishing because of course we are. From Herkimer County. When folks in this town said our new house was haunted, we just laughed. Neither my husband Tom nor I believed in ghosts. The house had been abandoned for several years. My husband said it was just the sort of story that people would invent about a neglected house. We soon had the place fixed up nicely, but he thought it was just perfect, except for one small annoyance. There was a closet under the front stairway with a door that wouldn't stay shut. It had a wooden knob that supposedly secured the door. When I turned the knob in the closed position and tugged, the door felt solid. But every morning when I came down to make breakfast, the door of the closet was open. Oh wait, we've read this. This was the ghost that was happy because he left his... Of course I would read this one. God damn it. Well, nobody's surprised by that. Alright, you're entitled. Let me pick another one. God damn it. Yeah, well, no one can say I'm not consistent. Why the fuck do I have the hiccups? I didn't do anything to deserve this. Uh, God damn it. Alright, we'll do the White Lady of the Lake. I laugh, I get hiccups. I bet it's because I'm so friggin' tired. They still can't. They'd just be wrong. Yeah, they would be wrong. Okay, this is stupid. Stop. Body, come on. Ugh. First, a few days ago, it's food poisoning. Now it's whatever this garbage is. Well, we're gonna try to read this anyway. Sorry, Sassy. Apparently your timing is terrible. What the fuck? Stop it. On that note. Oh dear. Don't get food poisoning again. It's not like I tried to. I did learn a valuable lesson about golden potatoes, though. Apparently, you can't just cut off the sprouts and call it a day. They're not like red potatoes that way. You just gotta not do them. What happened to not eating or drinking any questionable substances? I didn't know they were questionable. I thought they were legit. But yeah, I accidentally poisoned myself. I was fine though. Like as soon as I got it all out of my system, I was alright. But it was the first. God, stop it! Stop it! Nobody likes you. Nobody. Oh, sorry, Hiccup Demon. Now I feel bad. Shit, I'm an asshole now. Why did that work? What the f... I like them, they make me giggle. Good. I'm genuinely sorry. Oh, I don't know what I just insulted, but I insulted some sort of demon. Because as soon as I did it, it stopped. What the fuck? Can't go back on shitting on the hiccups. That's true. They're funny. They're just uncomfortable. I'm sorry, Hiccup Demon. You're not that bad. I feel guiltier than I should have. I don't know why that worked. Okay. But yeah, what was I saying before I hiccuped the shit out of my brain? Right, so I was making my roasted potatoes. Like, I guess this is the spooky story. This is the spooky story from New York. I was making my potatoes like I usually do. But I usually make them with red potatoes, not golden. And so I guess I didn't cut away Like with golden potatoes, sorry, with red potatoes, you can kind of just like cut away the bad shit and use the rest because we're cheap. But with goldens, I guess the spuds that we're using were smaller or something. But anyway, around the sprouts, they concentrate these chemical compounds that are toxic to people. I think it's called solanin or something. But the shit that was happening to me, like a couple hours after I ate it, we were pretty consistent with solanin poisoning. Don't eat green, boys. They weren't even that green. They weren't even green at all, which is just like the what the fuck part. Like, and I read that sometimes like potatoes can sneak up on you like that, or sometimes they're just bad and they look fine but they're bad. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? That's never happened to me before. So now I'm like, alright, I guess I'll just stick to red potatoes because at least I know what to look for. And I guess it should have been a red flag that the red potatoes at the supermarket looked like shit. So that doesn't mean, okay, just get the golden ones then. Then maybe don't get those potatoes at all. Fucking, well, lesson learned. I really did insult the fucking hiccup demon, because he just yeeted. Just as quickly as it came, just gone. What the hell? Still yawning, though. Still yawning. Anyway, I owe you an actual New York story. So this is the White Lady of the Lake from Irondequoit? 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 I don't know how to say this, but apparently it's somewhere in New York. I must have tried on 10 outfits before I finally decided what I was going to wear on my very first date with Jeff. Yep. I'd been on the phone all afternoon with one friend after the other discussing colors, accessories, nail polish, and all the other style essentials that I normally don't think about, since I consider myself an intellectual rather than a fashion plate. Oh god, you're insufferable. But that was before I was asked out by the most popular boy in school. Ah, there we go. I went out on the front porch to polish my toenails. I was a third of the way through when a familiar shadow blocked the warm spring sunshine for a moment. I didn't even look up. What is it now, Stan? I asked wearily. My neighbor since birth shuffled his way into the wicker chair next to mine. Oh, hello, this other bit. You're not supposed to still be here. Listen, Jamie, is it true that Jeff's taken you on a picnic to Durand Eastman Park? Ugh, good grief, I thought. Jeff had just made the final arrangements with me half an hour ago. I had, of course, immediately phoned my best friend, Diane, and told her all the news, assuming it took Diane at least 10 minutes to call all of her other friends, and then another 10 minutes for them to call all their friends. It would mean that the news must have just reached Stan within 25 minutes after I hung up with Jeff. That had to be some kind of gossiping record, I concluded, looking over at Stan. This is some of the most 90s shit I've read in a long while. Stan looks a bit like a sandy-haired scarecrow. He's 6 feet 2 inches and naturally plays basketball, but outside the court he appears a bit awkward, as if he's got 2 left feet. Stan is also an intellectual, like me. What the fuck does an intellectual mean? You're in high school. I consider him a good friend, except for his irritating habit of asking me to go out with him at least once a month. I mean, I like Stan, but just as a friend. We're going to the park, I answered his question. Why? I think you should take Jeff to the movies. Whoops. I think you should ask Jeff to take you to the movies, said Stan. The park's a bad idea. What do you mean, a bad idea? I asked suspiciously. Now, what was Stan up to? Is he trying to break my date with Jeff? Come on, Jamie. Even you must have heard about the white lady, Stan said. I stared at Stan incredulously for a moment, and started to laugh. For a second there, I thought you were serious, I gasped. The white lady. For goodness sakes, Stan, no one believes that old story. Stan frowned, and I stopped laughing. He couldn't be serious. But apparently he was. The White Lady was the most famous ghost around Rochester. She haunts the Rochester suburb Irondequoit, just to the north. Was I there? No. No, I have not been there. Okay. In the early 1800s, the White Lady and her daughter were supposed to have lived on the land where Durand Eastman Park now stands. Then one day, the daughter disappeared. Convinced that the girl had been harmed and killed by a local farmer, the mother, accompanied by her 2 German shepherds, searched the marshy lands day after day for her child's body. I have been, if I recall, they have a lovely beach. I believe it. I've been on Lake Ontario. I was somewhere north of Rochester. I wasn't in Irondequoit. I was... Oh, fuck me. Where the hell is Braddock Bay? Maybe it's just called Braddock Bay. Braddock Bay. Yeah, I was at Braddock Bay. I don't know what the city around it is called. I guess the closest thing to it is Rochester. I swear there was a fucking... Oh, was it called Greece? God damn it. Towns near Rochester. Fairpoint. Yeah, no. Greece. I was in Greece. I think I was in Greece. It was really flat. It was really flat. I can't believe I was near spooky times and didn't know. I know, apparently in Tarrytown there's something called Raven's Rock, which is apparently supposed to be haunted, and I was just like, what? If I knew there was a haunted rock, I would have hiked there ages ago. But yeah, it turns out that that's a thing. Yeah, no. So I was in Greece. I wasn't in Irondequoit. The early 1800s, German Shepherd, marshlands. Okay. The mother, accompanied by her 2 German shepherds, searched the marshy lands day after day for her child's body. She never found a trace of her daughter, and finally, in her grief, committed suicide. Her faithful dogs pined for their mistress after her death. and soon followed her to the grave. The mother spirit returned to continue to search for her child. People say that on foggy nights, the White Ladies and her dogs rise from Durand Lake. There, together, they roam through the park, looking for the missing daughter and seeking vengeance against men. Any man who catches the ghost's eye had best beware. The White Lady and her dogs are killers. Or at least that's the version of the story I heard at school. Oh, also Sassy, I have a book full of spooky Pennsylvania stuff as well. So, consider that on the menu. Come on, Stan. You don't believe there's a white lady, do you? I mean ghosts, please. Yeah, you didn't know? Sweet. Yeah, and Call of Cthulhu is tomorrow. I would still feel much better about the whole thing if you and Jeff went to the movies, Stan said stubbornly. I'm touched by your concern, I said sarcastically, but I am sure we'll be just fine. Now I have to go change. Jeff is picking me up at 6:30. I left Stan sitting remotely on my porch and went to prepare for my date. Jeff pulled into my driveway promptly at 6:30 in his yellow convertible. Oh my god, this is so early 2000s, 90s. He was polite and polished with my parents, assuring them that he would have me home by curfew, and he tucked me into the front seat next to him. I could smell fried chicken coming from the picnic basket. Okay, the guy's got taste though. Stan was sitting in a rocker on his porch, watching us as we drove off. Jeff nodded stiffly to him. Stan nodded back. I didn't know you lived next door to Stan, Jeff said. All my life, I said. Just then my cell phone rang. I answered it, and Stan said, Tell Jeff that you want to go to the movies. Give me a break, Stan, I said and hung up. Jeff glanced over at me. What did Stan want? He asked. Stan thinks we should go to the movies instead of to the park, I explained. Thinks the White Lady will come get us if we go there. Jeff laughed. I didn't think Stan was so superstitious, he said. Or is he jealous? He asked, glancing at me again. I don't know, I said impishly. Maybe. We laughed and talked all the way to the park. Jeff parked the car into the lot next to Lake Ontario. We crossed the street to what he called the White Lady's Castle, which overlooks both Lake Ontario and the smaller Lake Durand, a lovely tree-shrouded lake directly across the street from Lake Ontario. We climbed up the stairs and spread a blanket out on the grassy spot at the top, behind a cobblestone wall. I unpacked the picnic basket, and we sat munching fried chicken and comparing notes about our teachers. Then Jeff started making some sly, rather uncomplimentary remarks about Stan, which I didn't appreciate. I guess he didn't like Stan calling me and telling me not to go to the park. When I didn't respond to his witticism, Jeff changed the subject and embarked on a monologue about his athletic exploits, which frankly bored me to tears. Jeff is really cute, but I prefer my guys to have a bit more modesty than Jeff was currently displaying. Oh my god. It was dusk when I heard a crashing noise and a familiar muffled cursing coming from the trees behind us. I knew at once that it was Stan. Jeff looked around. What was that? He asked lazily. Just some kids fooling around, I said, glaring at Stan, who retreated behind a tree. Go home, I mouthed at him, and turned to smile at Jeff. Fooling around, eh? Jeff said, giving me a wicked grin. Sounds like fun. Ugh, I don't like this guy. Jeff leaned toward me, and I jumped up and walked over to the right side of the wall to look out at Durand Lake. I wasn't gonna kiss that vain boar, even to get back at Stan. To my right, the mist was rising off Durand Lake. The light was growing dim. I have a feeling Jeff is not going to be a problem anymore. I could see Stan scrambling down the hill toward the lake as silently as he could. He looked upset, but it served him right for following me on my date. Then I heard a step behind me, and Jeff slid his arms around my waist. Ugh. Ugh. Fuck off. What's the matter, Jamie? Are we playing hard to get? He asked, nuzzling my neck. Oh, fuck off. I was watching the mist. Alright, no, I'm rooting for the ghost. I'm rooting for the ghost. I'm team ghost on this one. I'm solidly in the ghost's camp. Fuck this guy. Dude, take a hint. Ugh. Ugh. No. No. That's not okay. Ugh. I was watching the mist over the lake, which was swirling strangely. I blinked a few times and suddenly realized I was seeing a beautiful woman solidifying before my eyes. Two smaller swirls beside her became German shepherds. The white lady was watching Stan, who just reached the bottom of the hill. She did not look happy to see him. Stan did not look happy to see her either. For a moment, my neighbor and the ghost stared at one another. The dogs at her side bristled, baring their teeth at him. And the ghost gestured to the dogs, and they ran towards Stan. Stan hightailed it back up the slope as fast as he could go, the ghost dog snapping at his heels. The white lady's face transformed from that into a beautiful woman to that of a haggard witch. She started rising up from the surface of the lake, following the crashing sounds Stan was making as he ran up the hill. Oh God, not this. Don't be so shy, Jeff said, nuzzling my hair. Oh, you're gross. Ugh. Just then, the white lady caught a glimpse of me and Jeff curled up next to the wall. Stan was forgotten in an instant. Yes. I stiffened as the ghost, accompanied by our two dogs, started rushing toward us. Feeling me tense, Jeff looked up and saw the white lady for the first time. He let me go so fast that I fell against the wall. Jeff didn't even notice. He was too busy stumbling backward, gasping swear words, and falling over the picnic basket. I was frozen to the spot, praying that the stories about the white lady were true, and that she protected females rather than killing them. The white lady ignored me completely. I ducked as she sailed right over my head in a rush of freezing cold air. She was aiming for Jeff with a look of murder on her face. Hell yeah! And Jeff didn't wait around. He flew around the wall and half ran, half stumbled down the stairs, the white lady on his heels. I grabbed my cell phone and ran to the top of the steps just as two enormous, semi-transparent German shepherds flew across the wall in pursuit of their mistress. I jumped out of their way and watched Jeff running across the road and down the hill toward Lake Ontario, the white lady and her dogs in hot pursuit. I flipped open my cell phone, started to dial 911, and then paused. The emergency staff would think I was a kook if I tried to report malicious ectoplasm chasing my date into the lake. Who do you call when a ghost gets out of hand? Ghostbusters! That's not written. Jeff plunged into the lake and submerged. The white lady floated over the place as he disappeared, looking very upset and very determined. Just then, I turned around. Just then I heard someone call my name. I turned around. Jeff was at the edge of the woods, looking nervously at the ghosts hovering over the water. I was relieved to see him in one piece. "Are you okay?" he called. I nodded and waved him into the woods, afraid of what the white lady might do if she saw him. Then I turned back to see what was happening to Jeff. Do I mean Stan? Did I say Satan? Jeff plunged into the lake and submerged. The white lady floated over the place he had disappeared, looking very upset and very determined. Just then I heard someone call my name. I turned around. Stan was at the edge of the woods. No. Stan was at the woods, not Jeff. Jeff's in the lake right now. Jeff ditched the girl and started running into the lake to avoid the ghost. Because mist doesn't come from the lake, ? I don't know. This guy doesn't seem very smart. I was like, how the fuck did he get there? No. So, the pathing is such that Stan ran into the woods. My phone ran into the pool. There we go. Stan ran into the woods to avoid the ghost. Jeff was an idiot and was thinking with his dick, got the attention of the ghost. The ghost zeroed in on him. He ditched the narrator to run into the lake to avoid the ghost. The ghost chased him there. Stan poked out of the woods to make sure the narrator was okay, and now I think they're both going into the woods. And Jeff is still in the lake. Okay, and now she's turning back to see what's happening to Jeff in the lake. The white lady was floating back and forth over the water discontentedly. Fuck off, Jeff. Jeff can die. Yeah, I agree. I have no sympathy for Jeff. Like, actually zero. I'm like, dude, don't... If she's not feeling it, don't pressure her like that. That's not cool. Like, at that point, the ghost is doing everyone social service. The white lady was floating back and forth over the water discontentedly. There was no sign of Jeff. He has to be making some kind of world record for holding his breath, I mused. The white lady turned slowly toward the shore and started floating up to the overlook until she drew even with me. The ghost and I looked at each other for a moment. Finally, she nodded to me, her face once again beautiful. Then she beckoned the dogs, and together they floated over Durand Lake, growing dimmer and dimmer until they had faded away completely. I turned back toward Lake Ontario and saw Jeff's head come bursting out of the water. He gasped desperately for air, looking around for the white lady. "Jeff," I shouted, she's gone. I started running down the stairs as Jeff raced from the lake. He looked neither left nor right. He just ran straight up the bank and into the parking lot, leaped into his car, and roared away. I stopped halfway down the steps, my mouth hanging open. He left me, I thought blankly. That no-good rotter left me alone with the ghost and her 2 dogs. It was almost completely dark now. I walked slowly back up the stairs, wondering what to do. Mechanically, I gathered up the remains of the picnic and folded up the blanket. Then I flipped open my cell phone and dialed a familiar number. "Yeah?" Stan answered on the first ring. "Did you see that?" I demanded into my phone. "I saw that," Stan said, keeping his voice neutral. "He left me. He didn't even try to find out if I was all right," I said indignantly. Would you give me a ride home? I'd be happy to, said Stan. He hesitated for a moment and said, You know, there's still time to catch a late movie. I thought about it. On one hand, there was handsome, popular Jeff. Handsome? You know what? Maybe this is just an allosexual thing that I don't understand, but I feel like that calculation no longer means anything. There was handsome, popular Jeff who'd left me to the mercy of the White Lady. On the other hand, there was my faithful Stan who'd been chased by the White Lady's dogs and had come back to make sure I was alright. Slimy, popular Jeff. There we go. Yeah, fixed it for me. Thank you, Sassy. Of course, this whole scene might have been some elaborate plot by Stan to get a date with me. Still, the ghosts had seemed real. Okay, I said into the phone. There was a stunned pause, and then Stan said, We'll bring the car to the bottom of the stairs. He hung up. I could hear the whoop of utter happiness all the way across the park. A moment later, I heard a car engine start, and I knew he was on his way to pick me up. Grabbed the picnic basket and started down the stairs, grinning from ear to ear to meet Stan. What a thought. Girl. You need a man that cares about you. Everything else is extra. If you and your partner can't stay together and push back against back in the face of demon shit, then are you really in a relationship? I mean, I might be particularly biased for reasons I can't get into on stream. But like, when it was Tenshi and I, and weird shit was happening, we would communicate more. We would work together to figure things out. We would always make sure each other was okay, as best as we could. Like, if there was ghost shit happening, we would not leave each other's side, if we could help it. Some man who ditches you to go get a second baptism in a fucking lake while there's ghost shit happening. That ain't a man worth keeping, y'all. She did say it was her first date. They wouldn't have been much of a relationship since didn't mention being friends beforehand. I mean, yeah. But like... But like, come on, man. In the face of things that are scary... Nah. I've thrown people on my shoulders and fucking ran from scary shit. Exactly. Like, that's the response I have. That's certainly the response Tenshi had. And it might be from, like, partially from him being in the military, but that's partially just innate for him, I believe. And I mean, I guess it's pretty well established in the whole, like, character development that he is kind of a douche at a baseline. So I don't really know what I was expecting there. But, like, homeboy fucking yeeted her and ran into the lake, like, bye, bitch. I'm like, Not to mention, he was so focused on canoodling that he couldn't be bothered to look up and get any advanced warning of the fucking threat. I'm gonna be real, if there's a spider somewhere you notice on your own, I'm fucking out. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. Arachnophobia is no joke. But I mean, you have confidence that I'd be able to handle a spider, and you would be right. Actually, that reminds me of a funny story. So when I was younger, walked into so many banana spider webs. Oof. So when I was younger, I used to be a lot more frightened of centipedes. Like house centipedes. Like these oh dear, 3 or so inches long. With like 100 or so longish legs. And they're pretty fast. And I have vivid memories of finding out where they were, grabbing the largest textbook I had at the moment, and yeeting the book with such precision to crush the centipede from a distance. That's right. I hated these things so much that I was inclined to use a large projectile to kill them. And the best part is the thud that the book would make on its way down was loud, so everyone in the friggin' house could tell when I had killed a centipede. Now I'm more okay with just going in there and crushing them. But that was a thing. It was a thing for a long time. Did you guys see the report about the water treatment plant that had to shut down temporarily because of spider infestation? No. I did not. Hold on. I'm Googling this. Water plant shut down due to spider infestation. 4-acre spiderweb engulfs building. Oh no. Oh wow. That's in Maryland. Massive communal spiderweb in Maryland. How many spiders does it take to creep you out? 10, 100? How many spiders does makes an extreme spider situation? The Baltimore wastewater treatment plant put out a call for extreme spider help in 2009 when a giant spiderweb covered almost 4 acres of their facility. Scientists eventually estimated that over 107 million spiders were living in the structure with densities up to 35,176 spiders per meter cubed in spots. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. How do you let it get that bad? What the fuck? Why is it so bad? Jesus Christ. we're living in their society now comes from. Yeah, this is from 2014. I think it happens pretty quick. It might. Here. How long does it take for a spider infestation to happen? Four signs of a spider infestation that you should never ignore. Okay, spider webs. If you see one or two spider webs, that's one thing. You might not have an infestation. When you start seeing a lot of spider webs popping up, it's time to get worried. Egg sacs mean you're going to have a lot of new spiders. Lots of flying insects. Seeing spiders. Ah, yes. Thank you. Egg sacs, molts, spiders. Spiders are great at hiding. If you have a spider infestation, it might be a while before you realize it. Egg sacs, molts, other pests. Check outside. How the heck? Why am I suddenly finding spiders in my house? I guess it does happen pretty quick. Oh no. It doesn't say anything about the type of spider. Immense in the title doesn't really begin to cover it. We were unprepared. Oh my god, this is from a scientific paper. We were unprepared for the sheer scale of the spider population and the extraordinary masses of both three-dimensional and sheet-like webbing that blanketed much of this facility's cavernous interior. Far greater in magnitude than any previously recorded aggregation of orb weavers, the visual impact of the spectacle was nothing less than astonishing. What the fuck? In places where the plant workers had swept aside the webbing to access equipment, the silk lay piled on the floor in rope-like clumps as thick as a fire hose. How? How do you let it get that bad? The paragraph was written by 5 mid-career professional entomologists and arachnologists. If they were a bit startled by the size of the web, it was a big friggin' web. Over 95% of the space was filled with spider web. It was so dense that it pulled 8-foot-long fluorescent light fixtures out of place. This is the real horror story. Described their estimate of 35k spiders as markedly conservative and as representing a minimum value of spiders. To measure spiders in metric shit tons or imperial shitloads. Either way, it's an awful lot of spiders. Oh my god. Sorry, Chaos. Giant multi-species webs actually aren't that rare. In 2007, a huge communal spider web was reported in Texas. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! All recorded U.S. megawebs have recorded near water. Makes sense because spiders have to eat. Midges emerge in huge quantities from water where they breed and live. Oh man. Well, sweet dreams. Oh no. How does communal webbing happen? Oh boy, here we go. Thousands of spiders worked together to build this giant communal web. I'll have to add a trigger warning for the end of this VOD. I really will. Oh, crap. You know what? I'm not gonna read this out loud. I don't want to traumatize a certain someone. I mean, I really can't top that. Alright, we'll close out with a Chinese one. Something that doesn't have to do with spiders, perhaps. We'll do... Thank God, right? Mine a bird. Alright. This is from Strange Tales from a Chinese Studio. Wang Fenbin once told the story about a man in his native town who kept a myna bird. The man taught it to speak, and they became so intimate that the man took the bird with him every time he went traveling. A few years passed in this way. One day the man was passing through the town of Jiangzhou when he found that he had no money for the voyage home and became quite despondent. "Why don't you sell me?" said the myna. "The prince will pay a good price for me, and then you will not need to worry about the journey home." "I couldn't bear to part with you," replied the man. "Don't worry. Just leave as soon as you have the money. Wait for me under the next big tree 6 miles west of the town." The man agreed to do this. He took the bird to the town, where they began talking to each other, gradually gathering quite a crowd. A eunuch from the prince's court saw them and reported it to his master, who summoned them and expressed desire to purchase the bird. "But I have always depended on this bird for a living," said the man. "I do not want to part with him." The prince addressed the myna. "Do you wish to live here?" "Yes, I do," replied the bird. The prince was delighted. "Give him 10 taels of silver." "Oh, whoops." "Give him 10 taels of silver," continued the bird. "Not an ounce more." The prince was more delighted than ever, and immediately gave the man 10 taels. The man took his leave, making a great show of how aggrieved he felt at the transaction. When the prince spoke to the bird, it replied promptly. The prince ordered its servants to feed it some meat, and when the bird had eaten, it announced that it wished to take a bath. So the prince ordered a gold basin that could be filled with water and set before the bird. He freed the myna from its cage and it bathed. Then it flew up into the eaves, preening its feathers with its beak and shaking off the water, chattering all the while with the prince. In a moment its feathers were dry, and it rose fluttering into the air, saying in a Shaanxi accent, "I must be on my way." The prince and the courtiers looked around, but the bird had already disappeared. The prince gazed long up into the air and heaved a sigh. The original owner was sought at once, but he disappeared without a trace. Sometime later, a traveler in Shaanxi province to the west saw the man with the bird in the market of a Xi'an town. The story was recorded by B. Geo. Aw, that's cute. The bird went home. Yay! Alright. And I should sleep soon, because I'm bloody exhausted. But we had a good 2-hour stream of stories. Call of Cthulhu tomorrow. Probably. I'm also doing my taxes tomorrow. What a pleasant tale, yeah. So that we can forget about the horrors that we've discussed today. Yeah, so Call of Cthulhu tomorrow. And then I might be streaming a little less this week because Auxie is free and I will probably be hanging out with Auxie because she's awesome. Yes, Cthulhu is coming. It was supposed to be tonight, but I fucked up. Well, I didn't fuck up. There was ice cream. I was bribed. Certainly you understand. But in the meantime, do not eat or drink any questionable substances. Make smart decisions. Do not die. Dying is absolutely forbidden, and I will see all. Oh, you're wonderful people! At a later time. Don't eat bad potatoes. You got it. You got it. Take care, guys. Goodbye! Thank you for coming! Ah! Do 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 do.